The inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
The primary election for mayor of Cincinnati will conclude on Tuesday. Roxanne Qualls has been walking neighborhood streets, and John Cranley has been shaking hands. Early voting opened a month ago. Almost all attention has gone to Qualls and Cranley, but 3 other candidates are also in this race. Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. I'm Dan Hurley. On Tuesday, voters in the city of Cincinnati will go to the polls to narrow the field of candidates from 5 to 2 for the November election. Most of the attention has been on John Cranley, a Democrat who served on city council for almost 8 years, and on Roxanne Qualls, also a Democrat who served in the mayor's corner office in the 1990s and returned to council 4 years ago. But 3 other candidates are also running on Tuesday, and they, as well as John Cranley, are my guests. Roxanne Qualls was not able to be with us this morning. Start over here with Jim Burns, who is a libertarian who has run for Congress several times and has been a guest on this show multiple times. Next to him is Stacy Smith. Stacy is running as an official write-in candidate. She is a Republican who has submitted her petitions to run but fell 133 votes behind the necessary valid signatures. She recirculated her petitions to gain the needed signatures. Her name won't appear on the ballot, but her votes will be counted, which means that she's an official candidate. To my right is Sandra Queen Noble, is an independent who has run for mayor in 2005 for the city of Cincinnati Council, for Congress, for mayor of Los Angeles, mayor of Las Vegas, as well as president in 2008 and 2012. This is her 3rd time on Newsmakers, so welcome back. And John Cranley, who, as mentioned before, is a Democrat and is running this time for mayor and has strong ties on the west side as well as now living on the east side, so you're spreading yourself out to make sure all of that works. You cover all of those bases. John, welcome back. Everybody, welcome. Stacy, your first time here on.
Yes.
Let's start, Jim, with you. What is your single greatest priority? If you were elected mayor, what would be the thing that you would work on first, either a very specific thing or a broad policy area?
Well, I think there's a clear difference between a libertarian and the Democrats who are also running here. The Democrats, John Cranley, Roxanne Qualls, see the government as the answer to our problem. Libertarians think government is the problem. I would take a 50% cut in the mayor's salary immediately. I would begin laying off, especially people in the legal law department. I would vote to get rid of the Port Authority, and also I adamantly opposed to the streetcar and to the sale of the parking meter leases, and I'm in favor of re-legalizing marijuana.
We'll get back to that in a second. Why the law department?
Well, I think there's too damn many lawyers. I mean, why does the city need, John Cranley will give you the exact number, probably close to 200 lawyers. That seems an outrageous number for a city the size of Cincinnati. Why are they involved in all these lawsuits? And I'd like to commend Coast for suing the city to require them to vote again on the parking meter lease because the deal has changed so much.
John, just as a check, 200 lawyers, is that in the right territory?
I don't think so. I think it's more like 40 to 50.
Okay. I don't know. I really don't know. Okay. Stacy, what would be your priority? What would you want to work on? And you're a Republican by background.
Yes, I'm Republican by background. What I'm most concerned with is the women in Cincinnati, our health care issues, our infrastructure issues, and also I'm most concerned with the parking deal. I'm not for the parking deal. I think it will create a problem for small businesses here in the greater Cincinnati area. I think that it will hinder our city as the great city that it is. I have spoke about toll pays that I think will bring money into the city, make our city economically, better, and it will balance the budget. And that's what I'm most concerned with.
You were in that first debate back, sponsored by Uptown Council, which I facilitated, and you spoke about this at the time. Talk a little bit about what you mean by the tolls. What would you be tolling and why would you be doing that?
Okay, the toll pays, I feel that if people come into the city, we have a lot of people that come into our city every day. We have people from Kentucky that work here. We have a lot of people that come through our city, truck drivers, you know, just a lot of people come through our city. And I feel that that will make our city economically.
You were saying toll them at the bridges.
Yes, I feel that that would be better, and this is the reason.
Do you realize we don't own those bridges? That Kentucky owns those bridges?
Right, I'm understanding that.
And that the suspension bridge, for example, was tolled from 1867 till 1963.
Right.
But that money goes to Kentucky, the owners of the bridge.
Yes.
Not the city of Cincinnati.
Right, and I'm understanding of that. But what I feel is building relationships with other mayors throughout Kentucky. I've been speaking with a lot of different women that are in power, you know, in other cities, and I feel that we all should be able to try to come together to work out a solution to our problems.
Okay.
Just like the river belongs to Kentucky.
That's right.
But we use it. We benefit off of it also.
Okay. Sandra, what would your top... Queen, okay. I want to be respectful. What would be your top priority if you were elected mayor?
If I choose to run in the next election, it would be to get 100% of the public vote. That means everybody else who's running against me will have a big fat 0. And so I'm going to put on my first hat so I can let y'all know what's up. I have here the a balanced budget, 2001. Cranley and Quoll's been running for public office over 40 years now. These people are getting millions of dollars for doing nothing. Public service is about victimization, not for the rich to take advantage of that money. All right? This is a budget, a balanced one. This other one is unbalanced. That's what we're dealing with now. But quickly, I'm gonna tell you what it's about. It's about your health, education, well-being, housing, employment, transportation, communication, parks, recreation, justice, law enforcement, politics, religion, reparations, science, and clean, safe, crime-free environments. Only part that you see in this budget is fire, sewer, Department of Health and Human Services, the government, and that's all. There is another budget called the biennial, and that's the core of your poverty and the practice of paying women less than men. Now, you need to get a queen in there so I can get at them.
Okay. John, your top priority if you're elected mayor?
My top priority is to actually get the priorities of the city back to what people care about, which are jobs, job training, reducing of the shootings and the violence. And right now we have the wrong priorities at City Hall of streetcar and this parking meter privatization plan, which will, both projects will balloon the deficit. We have to get our financial house in order so we can get back to the priorities that people care about. Jobs, job training, safety, better and stronger neighborhoods.
Okay. A number of you have brought up the parking contract. And let's just very quickly, yesterday the pension board came out and said if the parking, this assumes the parking deal goes through, okay, but let's let that go for a second. If the parking deal goes through, that $30 million of the proposed 92, whatever exactly it is, $30 million of that go to pay part of the unfunded part of the city's pension plan. Do you first off, do you favor that proposal, that a substantial part of the parking money, if it goes through, if it's carried through, goes to pay down the pension debt?
Okay, well, ignoring the fact that I oppose the deal in its entirety,
And
if it does go through, I would oppose taking any of that money to bail out the retirement system. John Cranley and Roxanne Qualls were on city council as this problem continued to escalate. They didn't do anything now. Roxanne Qualls wants to take $30 million out of that to pay for balancing the pension fund, I would liquidate the fund, take the money that was available from the liquidation, and divide it up amongst the two parties.
No, wait a minute. So you're saying that you would get rid of the retirement fund completely?
Yeah, the retirement fund would be replaced by a private retirement fund. We would take the pool of money. Part of it would go to the people who've ever retired, a cash payout. Part of it would go to the city workers that are still working, and then they could invest those in private retirement funds that they can count on, not the lies that the city council told them when they negotiated those benefits.
Jim, you're an employee of the University of Cincinnati.
I absolutely am. I'm in
And are you're part of the state retirement fund?
The state retirement fund,
So
yes.
you're not opposed to retirement funds?
No, I'm not opposed to retirement funds, but I think they should be in the private sector.
But that one's not. That's the state.
Where there is a contractual obligation. The only thing on the city retirement fund is promises by John Cranley and Roxanne Qualls, which obviously they can't make and they shouldn't have made.
I'll come back, Stacy, to you, but since John's name got used a lot right there, John, what would you say about, one, the specific thing I asked of the a portion, $30 million, whatever, going to that, but then generally a lot of what was said here.
Yeah. Well, first, let me respond to what Jim said. When I was on council before the economic collapse, which hurt the pension system, I felt with the baby boom retiring, we had to make prospective changes. So every vote I ever took on the pension system was to take a more conservative approach to how we're handling that. And now it's a crisis with Moody's downgrading the city's debt for the first time ever under Roxanne Qualls' watch as head of the Budget Committee. And the pension is coming on the city's books next year. Right now it's separate, but next year it's all coming together. So this is a potential disaster, which if not addressed, could lead us to a Detroit-like situation. To answer your question, first, I will do everything in my power to stop this deal because it makes the deficit worse. It trades down a revenue stream of $7 million to $3 million and papers over the deficit in the short term and then leaves our kids the bill in the long term with less money to deal with it from this cash cow. So, which is the parking system. So I think it's a horrible deal. If it happens before I get there, I've made a proposal to do a number of things to fix the pension system, including using the funds from the parking deal to buy down some of the liability. But I think it has to be a comprehensive solution that buys down a significant liability that Roxanne Qualls has ignored, changes in investment strategy. The pension fund did not recover its losses the way the S&P did, which means that the current investors are doing a bad job, and we've got to put that back out for bid. And third, on a prospective basis, we have to change some of the benefits for new hires. And let me give you a few examples. Just this year, Roxanne voted to to eliminate the ban on double dipping in election year, so she could hire someone for $250,000 to run a streetcar. She allowed, which is already $50 million over budget, she allowed the employee of the city, they eliminated what was a ban on double dipping so they could hire this person, but they eliminated it for everybody. That shows to me a sort of tone deafness to the seriousness of this crisis. In addition, if you have health care available from a new employer after you've retired, you shouldn't be using the city's health care. We got to change the policy prospectively of using sick and vacation days to goose up your numbers. And I think on a prospective basis, we've got to ask people to work longer.
Okay. Queen?
Man, that pension and the retirement fund is in trouble because these salary sons of bitches is making over $100,000 to upwards of $60,000 being elected. I mean, these politicians are career politicians for that money. Don't y'all see that? These politicians have failed since 2001 to balance the budget. At Qualls, if you was to look at her name in a family crest, it would mean quarry. If y'all know Fred Flintstone, he worked in a quarry. That's a deep hole. She loves the Department of Health and Human Services to keep these people in poverty, you know. Now, all they have to do is take a pay cut on their freaking $100,000 and $70,000 and $80,000 salary, and these people who deserve their retirement fund before they die, these policemen, corrupt as they are, hopefully there's some in there who want to act in the best interest of the public, because the public come first according to the city charter, not taxes and not revenue. You understand what I'm saying? And I will make sure that they take a pay cut and get their pension and the retirement fund done, because they failed to do it in the last 10 years.
Okay. Stacy, on the retirement fund and funding part of it through parking?
Well, what I would do if I become mayor, I would make sure that the retirement fund's monies is returned. Through my investigation, I have studied and I found out of that $92 million, $400,000 is missing, and it hasn't been accounted for.
Wait a minute, 92
million, yes.
But that hasn't even been done yet.
No, it hasn't been done yet.
What 400,000 missing? I don't understand that.
Well, what I'm saying is, out of the $92 million for the monies that has been given through the Port Authority, there's $400,000 missing that hasn't been accounted for, hasn't been shown. Not only myself know about it, but through my campaign, lots of people have noticed that there's monies missing. And I thought, wow, you know, not only I noticed it, but other people noticed it too. So what I would like to do, I would like to go back, review those forms, you know, that for the retired people. A lot of that money has gone to the arts, to different organizations. Their funds have gone to. And what I would like to do is recapture that money back, make sure the retirement funds is replaced back, you know, make sure the citizens, the workers get their money back. That's what I would like to do, is because...
So do you want the retirement system to stay in place? I mean, Jim wants to eliminate the retirement system.
Right.
You want it to stay in place?
Well, what I would like to do, being that it is the way that it is, what I would like to do is, you know, the police department, they have their own retirement fund.
Right.
And I think that that's what maybe the city of Cincinnati should do.
Is there any ability to shift city employees over to one of the state retirement funds?
Well, I mean, in theory, I think logistically and legally it would be very difficult to, issue to tackle.
Just let me wind this segment up. There's going to be an issue on the ballot in terms of the reform of the pension system in November that was just put on the ballot by City Council, even though I'm not sure, did all 9 of them say that they were opposed to it? Or yeah, that's what I thought. Do you favor, does anybody on this panel favor the passage of that charter amendment in effect? Let's start with Stacy.
Well, I don't feel quite comfortable with commenting on that at this time, because I would like to look more into that.
Sure.
Okay, I've read through the charter amendment several times, and the one thing, the reason that I mainly support it is that it keeps City Council from raising taxes to pay for retirement benefits. So that would protect the taxpayers from a possible future increase in taxes to pay for the benefits that have been promised. So I support the charter amendment.
Queen?
The only thing I'm supporting up here is less corruption and no poverty.
Okay. And John, what about you?
Well, as I've said before, you know, what the charter amendment does is switch everybody into a different plan, but we have an $800 million liability. So if existing employees are no longer paying into the system, but we currently have an $8 million liability.
800 million. 800
million. You know, this is a catastrophe for the city. It would be a worse financial problem. And so I think we have to make the comprehensive changes that I suggested earlier, benefits, new investment strategy, and make a major contribution to buy down that liability. But to the charter amendment, I think, has the unintended consequence of making the situation worse financially.
Jim, do you want a quick response to that, of making things worse?
We have a $800 million lie. John Cranley, Roxanne Qualls were on council. John, being a Harvard-trained lawyer, you expect him to present these ideas today in a very favorable light, because that's what he's been trained to do. So I think you should take that with a grain of salt. And I think the best thing is to let the city workers know they were lied to, protect the citizens of Cincinnati by not increasing taxes, and one of the ways to protect them from having a tax increase is to support the charter amendment.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. We'll come back, have all 4 candidates with us for the second part of the show as well. Thank you. So, very good. Welcome back. I'm joined this morning by 4 of the 5 candidates for Cincinnati Mayor. That will be on the ballot in a special primary election on Tuesday. And Roxanne Qualls was not able to join us this morning, but I am joined on my left by Stacey Smith, who is a Republican, by Jim Burns, who is a Libertarian, by John Cranley, a Democrat, and Sandra Queen Noble, who is an independent and actually runs under the Hero Shiro party name. Is that right?
That's right, baby.
That's right.
Shiro public service. I mean, with the public's help, we're going to get peace and harmony and everybody paid and active having respect for each other. You know, sellout, that's a crime.
My son is in love with Superman and Batman right now, and when he sees this on Sunday morning, I'm worried I may lose his vote.
The vote may go over. So, Jim, I feel like I need to ask you about this. Since you're sitting here with this plan, it's sort of obvious if I ignore it. So why?
Well, when I went out on the campaign trail and I was talking about economic issues, well, people were kind of interested in that. But when I told them I wanted to re-legalize marijuana and started handing out marijuana plants, actually cemented plants, that resonated. It went viral on the internet. Even one of my students saw it on Italian TV.
There you go. So you use the term re-legalize.
Yes.
Why do you mean that?
Marijuana was completely legal in the United States before 1930. You could go to the pharmacy and buy medicine that had marijuana. Your doctor could prescribe medicine with marijuana. It has huge medical benefits, especially for people suffering from cancer who are undergoing chemotherapy. They have huge problems with appetite and nausea, and this helps that. So that's one of the reasons why
you want to decriminalize it completely.
Well,
it's
that's
not
true.
Just for, it's not just for medical purposes.
Right.
Just very quickly, do you favor re-legalization of marijuana?
Well, I have some concerns, and Mr. Burns and I have spoken about this. My concern is, where would that put people that work? You know, we already have to take drug tests to get a job. And that's my concern, but I'm for it if it helps people medically wise. That's fine, but I'm just more concerned where would that lead us workers, you know, when we go to work.
Okay.
You know?
Queen?
Well, the fact is that most of the people y'all been voting for the last 30, 40 years come from the 60s. They are the original hippies who brung in this marijuana from Jamaica or whatnot, got the youth selling it and going to jail behind it. Only thing about marijuana is political leaders, they put drugs in it like crack cocaine that started a serious Holocaust epidemic. Ain't that right, Congressman Maxine Waters? I'm gonna get you if I get elected for this marijuana and crack cocaine. People got to be careful, particularly women. Daryl Strawberry is the name for people victimized with substances under marijuana.
I'm very aware of time. John, do you have a position on marijuana?
No, I don't support that. But
you don't support the legalization?
No, but let me tell you why. If we have one law, because drug laws are basically governed by federal law. If we have one law in the city of Cincinnati, but northern Kentucky and all the suburbs have a different law, the drug dealers will come to the city because then if you're caught, you have a lesser offense in the city, and these drug dealers are very smart. Too many of our neighborhoods are ravaged by open-air drug dealing and shootings and violence, and are disproportionately in African-American and lower-income neighborhoods. This is a huge priority for me to reduce the violence, reduce the shootings, and if we have one law and the rest of the region have a different law, we're going to see an increase in the open-air drug dealing and violence in our city, and that's not progress. That's the opposite.
I want to, and I only have probably, I think, less than 2 minutes, 1 minute. So very quickly, Jim, you've raised earlier that you don't like this primary system. Why not?
Yeah, the primary is perfectly fine in the spring when the Democrats and Republicans are choosing the candidate they want to run in the fall. in a nonpartisan election like the mayoral race in Cincinnati City Council, there is no place for a primary. It's just an excuse to get rid of people like Queen Noble and myself and not hear our voices through the entire election.
Are you opposed? Real quick, I'm almost out of time. You opposed to this system?
Yes.
Yes.
Only when there's a deficit.
Only when there's a deficit, okay?
I'm fine with it. It's given me a chance to see and rebut some of the false accusations that Roxanne's been making about ethics charges, which Anne-Marie Tracy...
We'll make sure Roxanne's back. Okay, on Tuesday, the polls in the city of Cincinnati open at 6:30. They remain open until 7:30. All the regular election laws apply, including the requirement for an official photo ID. If you have questions about where to vote, go to the Board of Elections website or call 513-632-7000. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Have a good week and join us again next week.
Dan,